Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So, from the last stream that I just ended a minute ago till this stream that I just started, StreamYard changed all the camera settings. And now there's this under me right here is like, I hate that. It's like I'm floating on something and I do not like it. They just moved. I just had to find a whole bunch of settings that are in a completely different spot. And now there's this. And it doesn't matter which background I put on. I just tried. Oh, that's lovely. You can just see my green screen now. This sucks. This literally just sucks what they did to my camera. No warning. No, hey, this might happen to you today. Here's how to fix it. When I was a programmer and I knew that I was about to update something that was going to change the user's experience, a week or two before I pressed change, I sent them a notice like, this is what's about to change. If you have this problem, do this. If you have this problem, do this. This is where you find this. And the reason why I knew what was about to change for them is because I tested it on Mac, on Windows, on Linux, on everything, on phones, on tablets. I'm like, okay, if you still use WinXP, this is what's going to happen to you. I knew what was going to happen to everybody. So before I made a change, I freaking told them this is what is going to happen, whether you like it or not. This is getting updated, and this is what's this. No, I had no idea. But now I'm sitting on a cloud. I hate it. I hate this. I really do. I don't like this. This is really bothersome for me. I don't like this at all. I wish I could get rid of it. But let's get to OJ. Let's worry about OJ today. And I will fix this later. I will.
Mistakes on how to pick it up.
Ms. Mazzola, you're saying that it's impossible for you to make a mistake at a crime scene? I'm asking you a question.
I collect the evidence the way I was trained. That's the only way I know how to do it.
Ms. Mazzola, please answer my question. Are you saying that it's impossible for you to make mistakes when collecting evidence at a crime scene?
Mistakes can happen.
And mistakes do happen. Is that correct, Ms. Mazzola?
Mistakes.
You're
It's
a
possible
mistake.
that they do.
And is it also true, Ms. Mazzola, that you can inadvertently make a mistake at a crime scene and not at that moment be aware of it?
It's overbroad and vague as to what that mistake is.
You're a mistake.
We're getting into speaking objections on both sides. I'm warning counsel at this time. Proceed.
Would you please restate the question?
He's going to ask another question.
Oh, okay.
Ask another question.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, was the objection overruled?
Yes.
Okay.
Proceed.
Okay.
Ask it again.
All right. Ms. Mazzola, would you agree that inadvertent mistakes can be made by the criminalist at the scene, which may not be noticed at the time that the mistake is made?
That is possible.
So you really can't say, Ms. Mazzola, that you've never made any mistakes at the few crime scenes that you've participated in, can you?
You're a mistake.
That's true.
By the way, Ms. Mazzola, you mentioned on direct examination that at the first crime scene that you attended, that team received a commendation. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how many items were collected by that team at that first crime scene?
I don't remember.
Well, at that first crime scene, your very first one, Ms. Mazzola, for which they
Excuse me,
received
Mr. Neufeld. I don't want to try that crime scene.
Well, let me ask you this, Ms. Mazzola. Have you and Dennis finally received any commendation for your crime scene collection in this case?
That's irrelevant.
Overruled.
Not to my knowledge.
And in contrast to those first couple of crime scenes, Ms. Mazzola, where you were present, in this case, on June 13th of 1994, you were in fact the primary collector of bloodstains as opposed to Dennis Fung. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And the Simpson case was your very first case in which you were the primary collector of bloodstain evidence. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And you personally collected almost all the bloodstains in this case on June 13th. Isn't that right?
What stains almost all?
Overruled.
The majority, yes.
To your knowledge, Ms. Mazzola, are there any written procedures of the Los Angeles Police Department limiting those crime scenes to which a probationer or trainee can participate in evidence collection?
Irrelevant to calls for yourself.
Overruled.
To my best of my knowledge, I don't know if there is a policy or anything.
To the best of your knowledge, are there any procedures which say that you should at first handle crimes less serious than murder?
I do not know if there's a policy on that.
To your knowledge, ma'am, does the Los Angeles Police Department publish any guidelines at all as to how to supervise and train a new criminalist at a crime scene?
I don't know.
You've never heard of any?
I've never heard of any.
Well, to your knowledge, Ms. Mazzola, is each supervising criminalist free to allow you to do as much or as little as a particular supervising criminalist chooses?
Overruled.
I don't know. I'm not a supervising criminalist. I don't know what their guidelines are.
Well, you said you'd been to 2 previous crime scenes.
Correct?
It would be fair to say that those other 2 crime scenes, by the way, the other 2 crime scenes, was Dennis Fung your supervisor?
No.
And at the other 2 crime scenes, when Dennis Fung was not your supervisor, you certainly were not the primary collector of bloodstain evidence, were you?
It was a team effort.
Ma'am, please answer my question. Were you or were you not the primary collector of crime scene evidence at the other 2 crime scenes that you participated in?
It was about 50-50.
Ma'am, isn't it a fact that at the first 2 crime scenes that you participated in, that you were not the primary collector of bloodstain evidence?
Sustained. Counsel, I'm really not interested in the other crime scenes.
You're a mistake.
Ms. Mazzola, since you've been at the Los Angeles Police Department, are you aware of the LA Police Department's Crime Scene Field Unit Protocol and Procedures Manual?
As soon as back on.
Overruled.
I'm not familiar with that, no.
Well, has it ever been given to you to look at?
No.
Has anyone ever instructed you to read it?
No.
Have you received during the year and a half that you've been with the Los Angeles Police Department any manual prepared by SID laying out the various procedures and rules that you are required to follow?
No.
Is there any written manual, ma'am, that you rely on when you go out to process evidence at a crime scene?
No.
Is there any book distributed to you to instruct you on how to conduct crime scene investigation?
No.
Well, ma'am, without a textbook and without a manual, am I correct in assuming that your authority and your teacher on June 13th was exclusively Dennis Fung?
It's unintelligible.
Overruled.
We had been taught the procedures that SID wished us to follow. There was no written material given out as in the form of.
So this is a difference between like a job and a career that you like studied for. So like you start working at McDonald's, okay? And they tell you, put the burger on the grill for 1.5 minutes, flip it for 1.5 minutes, take this squirt gun and put exactly that much ketchup on the bun. And they have to show you that, or this is how you ring it in the computer. So like when I started work at Millersville, nobody had to tell me this is how you write code for this application to do what that's what I went to school for. Like the school taught me the code, how to write the code. Yes, that someone taught me, what they need for faculty evaluations. Like they told me what they need. I need, faculty name, I need class number, but no one taught me how to write, how to do that. That's why I went to school. So she went to school to learn what she needed to do. Yeah, maybe they had to teach her their procedures, which we all have to admit from this court so far were really freaking loose. They played it loose and fast. We're just going to collect some of the stains. It doesn't matter who does it. I'm just going to say I did it. But it's not like this is so new to her that she had to be glued to someone's side for a week following them around. No, she collected the evidence. I mean, that she saw a hair. She put it in an envelope. She marked it. Like, she doesn't need a teacher to say, "Look, there's a hair, and you want to pick that up." No, no, no. You use a glove. No, no, no. Put it in an envelope, not your pocket. That's not what happened.
A manual or textbook.
Well, on June 13th, there's no manual that you can refer to for assistance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And on June 13th, there's no textbook that you can refer to help you out on a certain matter of crime scene collection. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so the only person or the only authority that you could turn to on June 13th when you were at the crime scene was Dennis Fung. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, one of the things you've been taught to do, Ms. Mazzola, is to fill out and prepare crime scene investigation field notes. Is that right?
We have been shown the notes before, yes.
And these crime scene checklists and field notes are a series of reports and forms that you're expected to accurately and completely fill out in connection with crime scene investigations. Isn't that correct?
Compound general.
Oral.
I was told to fill in the parts that were the most important.
And were you told, ma'am, to fill out these reports and forms contemporaneously with the activities that you're engaged in?
For the most part, yes.
And were you taught, ma'am, in your Los Angeles Police Department, I think you said you attended the Mini Academy, is that right?
Correct.
Were you taught at the Los Angeles Police Department SID Mini Academy that it was important to fill out these forms accurately?
Yes.
And were you told when you were in the Mini Academy that it's impossible to remember the sequence of every event at a crime scene investigation, and therefore it is essential to record and fill out these reports?
I don't remember.
Well, is it true that between, what day did you first start with the Los Angeles Police Department, Ms. Mazzola?
January 24th, 94.
From January 24th, 1994, until you testified at a hearing on August 23rd, 1994, it was your understanding, based upon what you had been taught, that you were required to fill out these reports, these field notes, completely. Isn't that correct?
I had watched the other criminalists in the field as they fill out theirs.
And when you had watched the other criminalists in the field fill out theirs, they filled out these reports completely, did they not?
Some did.
Ms. Mazzola, isn't it a fact that it was your understanding when you testified on August 23rd that you were required to fill out these reports completely and accurately?
I believe I testified something like that.
Isn't it a fact, Ms. Mazzola, that it was only after you finished testifying on August 23rd and you had testified to this duty to fill these reports out completely, that when you then got back to the LA Police Department SID lab, that individuals for the first time said, no, it's not necessary to fill them out completely. Isn't that what happened?
As I said before, I had seen other criminalists fill out portions, some fill out the entire forms.
Ms. Mazzola, I asked you, didn't you believe that up till August 23rd when you testified in this case, that is for the first 7 or 8 months of your employment, that you were required to fill out these reports completely?
I believe so, yes.
Not just to fill out portions, but to fill them out in totality. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say, Ms. Mazzola, that when you're actually conducting the crime scene evidence collection on June 13th, you don't know in your own head what's going to be important to an investigator or to a prosecutor 6 months down the road? Isn't that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
And isn't that another reason why they want you to write everything down so other people later on will be able to reconstruct what happened?
Sustained. Phrase the question.
Would you agree, Ms. Mazzola, that you can't anticipate during the actual crime scene collection phase which details will be important to the investigation 6 months hence?
It's overbroad.
Hold on. You've already asked that question.
Ms. Mazzola, one of the requirements on these forms is to note for each item collected, the location it is found. Is that right?
State's tax non-evidence is requirements.
Hold
Yes.
And another item on the form is time, the time each item is collected. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And another item that up until August 23rd, you believed you were required to fill out was by whom the item was collected. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And so, ma'am, if as recently as August 23rd, you believed you were required to fill out these reports completely, you also operated under that belief when you were present on June 13th and June 14th to participate in the crime scene investigation of Mr. Simpson's case. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever receive any handouts from your superiors at the Los Angeles Police Department informing you of the importance of keeping accurate and complete records?
I don't believe so.
Did you ever receive a handout from your superiors at the Los Angeles Police Department entitled Quality Assurance and Quality Control?
That doesn't sound familiar.
Have you ever heard that term?
I've heard the terms before, but just not in the context that you
If I
speak.
showed you a document, might it refresh your recollection?
Maybe.
May I, Your Honor?
You may. Please.
Sarah, just read this to yourself, okay?
Ms. Mazzola, I ask you again, have you ever received a handout from your superiors at the Los Angeles Police Department SID unit instructing you that you were required to keep complete and accurate field notes?
That page does not look familiar to me.
Okay, well, separate apart from actually receiving a handout, at some point at this mini academy, did your instructors ever teach you that it was very important in terms of your professional responsibility to make accurate and complete field notes? Is that something that they taught you?
I believe so.
And were you taught, Ms. Mazzola, that if swatches, for instance, were not properly marked, packaged, and identified, they could get mixed up?
That's correct.
And were you taught that if items of evidence were not properly packaged and identified, it made it easy for someone to tamper with those items?
That was never brought up.
You were never received any instruction at all during your entire time at this mini academy on taking measures to avoid evidence tampering?
No one would tamper with the evidence.
That's an assumption you're making, is it not, Ms. Mazzola?
Argumentative, sustained.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, you can certainly speak for yourself, is that correct?
It's argumentative.
Overruled.
I can speak for myself, and I know the people I work with.
And you're saying, Ms. Mazzola, that there's nobody who you ever met, who you know at the Los Angeles Police Department who would ever tamper with evidence, is that right?
The people I know wouldn't.
And Ms. Mazzola, you also said it was your impression that you've never made a mistake at all in the handling of crime scene evidence, is that correct?
Sustained.
Ms. Mazzola, would the people that you work with at the SID ever make a mistake in the handling of crime scene evidence?
Sustained.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, you said a moment ago that you had been taught to keep accurate and complete field notes during the
See
training.
counsel at the sidebar, please. With the court reporter.
He's gonna get in trouble. You're a mistake.
Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Ms. Mazzola, would you agree that at least on June 13th, in these notes, Dennis Fung did not keep complete field notes?
I object. I think this is kind of-
That is a new question. You can answer that question.
Yes.
Well, when you got back to the laboratory, either on June 13th or on June 14th, did you tell Dennis Fung that he hadn't kept complete and accurate field notes for June 13th?
irrelevant question per se.
Overruled.
I didn't tell Mr. Fung anything like that.
Did you go to either Ms. Kessler, the head of the laboratory? Did you go to her and tell her that the person you were working with that day did not comply with the requirement, as you believed at that time, that is to keep complete field notes?
No.
Did you go to Mr. Matheson, the number 2 person, and tell him that your teammate had failed to follow the requirement of keeping complete field notes?
That's not notice is required.
Sustained. Did you tell anybody about this?
No.
Move on.
Is, Ms. Mazzola, you said that after August 23rd, you were told that you do not have to fill out all the boxes and columns on these field reports. Is that correct?
It's kind of-
It's foundation, I'm moving into a new subject, Your Honor, yes.
She's already been asked and answered that question, counsel.
Who Who taught you that some of these boxes and some of these columns do not have to be filled out, Ms. Mazzola?
I had just talked to some of the other criminalists.
Which criminalist, Ms. Mazzola, told you that you don't have to fill out every box and every column on these field notes? What are their names?
I
That's
don't-
irrelevant, counsel. If that's what she testified to, that's the facts she's testifying to. Who told her, doesn't matter. Let's proceed.
Were they supervisors?
They were more experienced criminalists.
Were they supervisors in the laboratory like Mr. Matheson and Ms. Kessler?
Overruled.
No,
They didn't tell you that, did they?
no.
And Ms. Mazzola, you were taught by Mr. Matheson and Ms. Kessler that these reports specifically were prepared to be filled out by criminalists at the scene. Isn't that correct?
No,
Well, Ms. Mazzola, you said, and I quote, that some boxes don't apply to the criminalist at the scene. Let's start with the box that says collected by, Ms. Mazzola. Is it your testimony that the box where they're asking you to write down who it is who collected each item doesn't apply to the criminalist at the scene? Yes or no?
as of June 13th, I was informed we were working as a team. The box was not necessary to be filled out.
Ms. Mazzola, the first time you were told that was August 23rd, that you didn't have to fill out all these boxes. Isn't that correct?
No, it was June 13th.
Ms. Mazzola, isn't it relevant to know who collected the item of evidence for purposes of establishing a chain of custody? Were you taught that?
Not to really establish the chain of custody.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, were you taught anything about chain of custody in your training?
Silver fraud.
Overruled.
Yes,
And were you taught that the first thing one has to do in establishing a chain of custody is establish who the person is who actually collected the item of evidence?
Overruled.
Weren't you taught that?
I don't believe so.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, let's go on to the ID markings. There's a column on here that says ID mark, is that right?
Yes,
And the mark stands for identification markings, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Well, weren't you taught that what this column is for you to know what markings you put on a particular item of evidence so it can be identified at a later time as being a particular item that you collected? Weren't you taught that?
No,
Were you ever taught anything with respect to the purpose of the column on your field note report that says ID mark?
I don't remember.
Don't remember being taught that at all?
I might have been taught, I don't remember.
And Ms. Mazzola, on the crime scene checklist, there is a box question that says, has the scene been altered? If so, by whom and how? Isn't there?
Yes,
And in fact, there is 4 lines that follow that question. Isn't that right?
I don't know the exact number of lines.
Well, they leave you space so you can answer those questions, don't they?
Yes,
And you would agree, ma'am, that that's a very important question, isn't it?
Space to report.
Overruled. Overruled.
yes,
Well, isn't it relevant to the overall investigation to know whether a crime scene has been altered?
yes,
In fact, ma'am, if a crime scene has been altered, it could render subsequent scientific analysis unreliable, couldn't it?
I don't have the experience to answer that.
Well, ma'am, for instance, if a blanket, for instance, okay, was used to alter the crime scene and it left trace evidence where there had none been previously, that could render an analysis of certain trace evidence unreliable, couldn't it?
Overruled.
It's possible.
All right. And that's why the Los Angeles Police Department Scientific Investigation Division has asked you to fill out this question, has a scene been altered? And if so, by whom and how? Isn't that right?
Yes,
And they taught you in the SID Mini Academy that it's important to know who altered it, and how it was altered, so you would know whether or not subsequent analysis is worthless. Isn't that right?
No,
Well, wouldn't you want to know the extent to which a crime scene had been altered in understanding the value of evidence obtained at that crime scene?
That's been asked and answered, so.
Overruled.
for the most part, you can look at the evidence and sort of tell if it has been trampled through. People at the scene when they first arrive are extremely careful of what they touch, where they step, because of the fact that there is evidence present.
Ms. Mazzola, when you arrived at the Bundy crime scene, how many people were there inside the tape, approximately?
I don't know.
Well, it was more than a dozen, wasn't there?
I don't know.
Well, there were several detectives.
It's vague.
Was there more than one detective inside the crime scene?
It's possible.
You don't remember? You don't remember who was at the crime scene when you got there, ma'am?
I don't know any of the detectives.
Ma'am, were there people wearing suits who weren't in uniform inside the yellow evidence tape when you arrived at the Bundy crime scene?
Yes,
There were several people who weren't wearing uniforms inside that tape.
Sustained.
Were there more than 5 people not wearing uniforms inside that tape?
I don't remember.
And there were people from the coroner's office inside that tape when you arrived at the scene, weren't there?
Yes,
And ma'am, isn't it fair to say that you cannot assume that no one altered the crime scene before you arrived? Isn't that correct?
that's correct.
And isn't it correct, ma'am, that the reason that they asked you to investigate whether the crime scene had been altered is because they don't want you to assume it hadn't been? Isn't that correct?
Overruled.
We do not investigate who has been in the crime scene area.
Ma'am, are you required to investigate whether the crime scene has been altered?
What do you mean by investigate?
Are you required to make a determination as to whether the crime scene has been altered? Isn't that what SID wants you to do when you get to a crime scene, ma'am?
We're close.
What was the last question? Sorry.
Hasn't the SID unit of the LA Police Department instructed you to make a determination when you get to the crime scene as to whether it has been altered?
It's vague and overbroad as to determination.
Overruled.
Other than knowing who arrived, I don't see how we can determine if the scene itself had been altered.
Well, you think that one thing you might be able to do is to simply ask a detective whether or not he or she has done anything to alter the scene.
It's possible.
What did they teach you at the SID Mini Academy that you're supposed to do to answer this important question? Has the scene been altered? If so, by whom and how? What did they teach you to do to answer that question?
Just get an idea of who had been there.
Well, once you get an idea of who had been there, Ms. Mazzola, don't you have to ask the people what they did so you can make a determination in your own mind as to whether or not they did in fact alter it? Didn't they teach you that?
Ask them what. When the first officers arrive on the scene, they are looking at the victims. They're not going to remember exactly where they stepped. I don't know what you are asking.
Ms. Mazzola, did they teach you at the SID Mini Academy that you were to ask detectives whether or not they moved any articles of evidence? For starters, did they teach you that?
No.
They didn't teach you that. Did they teach you to ask the officers who were there or detectives who were there whether they walked into a critical area where there may be shoe prints? Did they teach you that?
I don't believe they went into depth in that question.
Did they teach you to ask the detectives whether they brought any foreign matter into the crime scene, such as a blanket? Did they
No.
teach you that?
No.
correct me if I'm mistaken, Ms. Mazzola, so your test,
So your testimony is at the academy, they didn't teach you to be a detective? Oh, I see, because you're a freaking. I'm just going to post this. I'm just going to post this. I'm just going to post this because RW said everything that I wanted to scream.
testimony that you received absolutely no training on how to answer that question. That is, has the scene been altered? If so, by whom and how? Is that a fair statement, that you really didn't receive any training on how to answer those questions at a crime scene?
Yes.
Now, on June 13th, Ms. Mazzola, you started out by going to Rockingham, right?
Correct.
Then you went to Bundy.
Right.
Then you went back to Mr. Simpson's house at Rockingham, is that right?
That's correct.
Then you returned to the laboratory.
Correct.
And on the morning of June 14th, you were in the laboratory processing samples, is that right?
Let's see, on the morning of the 14th,
When you first arrived.
I was working, filling out property reports for a car search we had done previously.
You didn't do any processing of samples on the 14th?
Not in the morning, no.
And you then went out and you went to the Bronco on the 14th?
Correct.
And is the reason you went out with Dennis Fung on the 14th to the Bronco because it's a standard LA Police Department SID procedure that once a criminalist becomes involved in the case, he or she continues with the case and subsequent searches and investigations?
For the most part, yes.
For the most part, there are exceptions to that?
If you are absolutely unable to get away, if you had to go to court or something like that, another criminalist would step in.
Okay, but aside from either illness or you have responsibilities testifying in court, it's the standard procedure at LAPD that once a criminalist is assigned to a case, that he or she sticks with it for each of these searches. And is that correct?
For the most part, yes.
And that's why you went back on the 14th to the Bronco with Dennis Fung?
Correct.
But in this case, ma'am, you didn't stick with this case beyond the 14th, did you?
That's correct. Well, I take that back. We did go for the Bentley.
What day was that?
May I check my...
Please.
It was on the 30th.
On June 28th, you did not participate in the search of the Bronco, did you?
Yeah, the scope of it.
Overall.
No.
And on June 28th, you did not participate with Dennis Fung in the search of Mr. Simpson's home, did you?
No.
On each of those occasions, to your knowledge, Mr. Fung had another team member, right?
Well, cause for speculation.
If you know.
I don't
Answer
know.
that.
I don't know.
And on July 3rd, when Mr. Fung went back out to Bundy on a crime scene investigation, you didn't go with him on that occasion either.
No.
To your knowledge, Ms. Mazzola, was it Dennis Fung's decision that you be replaced on this case?
Seems fact that I'm not-
Sustained.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, on June 28th, were you out sick?
I don't believe so.
On June 28th, were you in court testifying?
I don't believe so.
On July 3rd, were you out sick?
I don't believe so.
On July 3rd, were you in court testifying?
I don't believe so.
Do you know, well, who made the decision, Ms. Mazzola, to your knowledge, that you should not go out with Dennis Fung on those subsequent searches in connection with this case?
Sustained. Assumes facts not known. Rephrase the question.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, you were no longer his team member on those June 28th and July 3rd investigations. Is that correct?
Sustained. Assumes facts that aren't in evidence, counsel.
You weren't present with Dennis Fung on either of those occasions, were you?
No.
And Your Honor, subject to connection, there's already been testimony about investigations done on
Wait.
those dates.
Wait. Ask your next question.
Had you been told by anyone at SID that you would not be accompanying Mr. Fung on June 28th for those investigations in connection with this case?
No,
Had you been told by anyone that you would be not at SID, that you would not be accompanying Dennis Fung on the July 3rd investigation in connection with this case?
no.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, to your knowledge, was there a decision made by anybody at SID to replace you on this case?
Still assumes facts.
Overruled.
I have no knowledge about that.
Now, let's just jump ahead a second to the June 14th search you did of the Bronco at the print shed, okay?
Okay.
And I believe you mentioned that you did what's known as a phenolphthalein test on the accelerator, the brake pedal, and the emergency brake pad. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you did those 3 tests,
Judge Ito, you just made RW say good grief. You should be ashamed of yourself, sir.
did you place a single swab of cotton on each of those 3 items? Is that what you did?
I was told just to use one swab and test all 3.
I'm sorry, what?
I was told to use one swab and test all 3.
Did you use one swab for all 3? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay, so in other words, you used the same swab on the accelerator, the brake pad, and the emergency brake. Is that right?
that's correct.
Who was it who told you that you should use the same swab to do a presumptive test for blood on 3 separate items?
Mr. Fung.
Prior to your going out there on June 14th, had you received any instruction or training on the use of the phenolphthalein test?
Yes,
And when you received that training, Ms. Mazzola, didn't they tell you that you should use separate swabs on
Can't be
separate
brake pad.
items?
It can't be brake pad. Just can't be brake pad. I think he meant brake pedal. And she used the same swab on all 3 of those? Wait a sec. Okay. I guess if there was more than one person, that would show up. If you're using the same swab, like the different DNAs will show up, but isn't that mixing them all up together?
yes,
Well, when Mr. Fung, your supervisor that day on June 14th, told you to use the same single swab on 3 different,
So like a strand of DNA is a strand of DNA. So it's not like if let's say there's 3 different people's blood there, right? And they swab it. Oh, okay. I'm going to finish what I was going to say anyway. And they swab it. The strands won't like merge together. They'll be able to pull the 3 separate strands from that when they do their test. But this is just a presumptive blood test, not DNA.
items to test for the presence of blood. Did you say to him, Mr. Fung, Dennis, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing? Did you say that?
no,
He was your supervisor that day, is that right?
yes,
And so you just followed his directions, is that right?
yes,
And is the reason you followed his directions that day, Ms. Mazzola, because you didn't want to rock the boat?
Overruled.
I wouldn't call it rocking the boat.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, this was a relatively new job for you, correct?
Yes,
You'd only been there since January of 1994.
correct.
It would be fair to say you didn't want to lose that job.
That would not make me lose my job.
Ms. Mazzola, I asked you a question. Would it be fair to say you didn't want to lose that job?
Shut up, sir. You are a mistake. He is a mistake. Okay. I got to go. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'll be listening. I'll be listening.
Overruled.
If I had question Mr. Fung, that would not be cause for me to lose my job.
Ms. Mazzola, it would be fair to say you didn't want to lose that job at that point.
No, it's irrelevant.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Okay.
She still has the job, and it's much later. I assume.
I
she still
didn't,
wants
right,
the
I
job.
did not want to lose the job, and that would not make me
You
lose
were on
it.
probation at that time, weren't you, Ms. Mazzola?
Yes,
And the critical comments of supervisors could have an impact on whether or not you would pass that probation. Is that correct?
to some extent, yes.
And Ms. Mazzola, when you looked at those three items, the accelerator, the brake pad, and the emergency brake pedal, you did not observe any red stains on them, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And the purpose of this phenolphthalein test, Ms. Mazzola, is to learn whether there could be blood present, isn't that right?
That's correct.
In fact, there were stains that you tested on June 13th, which weren't even red, isn't that correct? I'm sorry, I see from a furrowed brow that it was an unclear question, I'll
Right.
withdraw it. Would you agree, ma'am, that some of the stains that you examined on June 13th at Rockingham, for instance, weren't red stains, but nevertheless, you did a phenolphthalein test?
I can't remember.
Well, you did do some tests at Rockingham, which were negative, correct?
Correct.
For instance, you looked at stains in the family room at Mr. Simpson's house, correct?
Correct.
You did a phenolphthalein test there, and they were negative, correct?
Correct.
And you saw stains on the garage at Mr. Simpson's house, correct?
On the garage, I don't remember those.
Would it refresh your recollection if you were to look at your notes, your field notes from that
Yes.
day? Have you been able to refresh your recollection?
Yes, you mean the door leading out to the garage?
Well, I'm just asking you whether it's the garage. If it was
Well-
the door leading out, if that's your recollection,
Okay,
that's your
that's
recollection.
correct. That
Wait.
was negative.
Wait, both of you can't talk at the same time.
Okay. Let me ask the question again. Did you also do a phenolphthalein test on some portion of the garage,
Correct.
and it was negative?
Correct.
Now, when you get a negative result on a phenolphthalein test, that's conclusive, isn't it?
Yes.
And when I say it's conclusive, does it mean to you, and you've been taught, that it can't possibly be blood if it's negative?
Correct.
However, a positive result, when that little swab turns that, I think you said magenta?
Magenta pink, yes.
Okay, turns that magenta pink color, it's not a definitive result, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And in fact, all it means is that the stain could possibly be blood, right?
Right.
And the test that you do, this phenolphthalein test, it certainly isn't a test for human blood, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And in your training at this, at SID, did you learn, in fact, that there are many other substances other than blood, which can also give you that magenta color, which are in blood?
Yes.
And were you taught, ma'am, that some of them are the juices from common vegetables and fruits?
Yes.
And were you also taught, ma'am, that even bacteria, germs, okay, that are invisible to the human eye, can also give a false positive when you do the phenolphthalein test?
I was not told about the germs. No.
We told about bacteria.
No.
We told about microorganisms.
No.
Well, You were taught how to do this test at the laboratory, is that right?
That's right.
When they taught you how to do this test at SID, did they encourage you to read scientific literature on the subject as well?
We did some reading, yes.
Okay. And was any of the reading that you did peer-reviewed articles in the scientific journals?
I believe one article was in a journal. The majority came from textbooks.
And have you ever read any scientific publication which talks about or describes how bacteria, invisible to the human eye, can give a positive test for the phenolphthalein test,
That's not in evidence.
subject to connection?
Overruled. Have you ever read such a thing?
No.
Ma'am, in your training at SID, did they ever teach you to use what are called negative controls?
Yes.
Could you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a negative control is?
It is using the same item, be it a swatch or a swab that you will use to collect a stain or to run a test. You run the test on a brand new, a different swab. It should be negative since nothing has been collected on the swab.
And ma'am, when you did the phenolphthalein test with the single swab on the brake pedal, the emergency brake, and the accelerator, you didn't use any negative control to see whether or not something else other than blood might be generating a false positive reaction, did you?
No.
And would you agree that other than the various vegetables and fruit juices and other substances that can generate a false positive, that sloppiness or carelessness on the part of a criminalist can also lead to a false positive?
I don't see how.
Well, let me ask you this hypothetical, Ms. Mazzola. If an inexperienced criminalist inadvertently touched an area where there is a blood stain on the carpet on the driver's side of that Bronco, inadvertently put their hand, even with a rubber glove, on either the pedal, the accelerator, or the brake pad, couldn't that leave a substance that would give you a positive result?
On the swabs we use? No.
You're saying that if you touched moist blood on the carpet and then brought your hand to the brake pedal, the emergency brake, or the accelerator, that absolutely could not generate a false positive or a positive result. Is that your testimony?
Overruled.
The swabs we use are not the normal Q-tips. They have an extremely long wooden handle. Our hands never come near the tip of the swabs.
What I'm asking you, ma'am, is not whether your hand comes close to the tip of the swab. What I'm asking you, if your hand at some other point while you're in the Bronco touched accidentally, okay, if it did, it's a hypothetical, touched accidentally a blood stain on the carpet, if that hand then inadvertently came into contact with the pedals while you're down there, mucking about in the car, could that generate a positive result?
Hypothetically, it could.
Okay. Now, on June 14th, it was yours and Dennis Fung's job to collect every single blood stain on the outside and inside of the Bronco that was visible to you. Isn't that right?
Yes, I believe so.
And each time that you set out to collect bloodstains in this case, for each stain that you collected, Ms. Mazzola, weren't you instructed to collect as much of the stain as you possibly could collect?
Yes.
In fact, you were supposed to collect the entire visible stain. Isn't that right?
I believe so, yes.
And you were taught, ma'am, to keep swatching that blood stain until the blood was completely collected. Isn't that correct?
To get as much up as possible, yes.
And in fact, you've been taught by the laboratory that it was important to get as much up as possible in the event that DNA testing might be considered.
I think it was also just for basic serology, not necessarily DNA.
And on the morning of the 14th, you arrived at the print shed around 10:30?
May I check my notes?
Please. I'm sorry, do you have an independent recollection of what time you arrived?
No.
Okay, then please do.
Yes. Yes, it was around 10:30.
And you stayed there for approximately 3 hours? Okay. And when you were there during those 3 hours, the press wasn't there to distract you, were they?
We did not see them.
Okay. And was there a large group of detectives with you when you were at the print shed?
No.
So they weren't distracted, so the detectives weren't distracting you either that day, were they?
The detectives were really not a distraction to begin with.
In other words, Ms. Mazzola, when you were at the print shed on the 14th, you were able to pursue your tasks conscientiously and professionally as best you could. Is that right?
As we did on the 13th, yes.
And so is Dennis Fung, correct?
Yes.
And during those 3 hours that you were at the Bronco on June 14th, you made a systematic examination of the outside of that car, didn't you?
Mr. Fung and myself, yes.
And you systematically examined the entire exterior of the Bronco for even the smallest yet visible specks of blood. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you looked on the fenders, right?
We looked at the outside.
Well, the fenders are part of the
Well,
outside,
right.
right? Hmm?
Correct.
And you looked on the doors,
Correct.
top and bottom.
Yes.
And you pointed out to Dennis Fung every single stain that you noticed, correct?
He was a little better at picking out the stains than I was.
And Dennis Fung pointed out every stain that he noticed to you, didn't he?
Correct.
And isn't it true, Ms. Mazzola, that on June 14th, Dennis Fung never pointed out to you any dark red stains on the white metal portion of the sill on the driver's door, did he?
I don't remember if he did or not.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, did he point out any stains to you on that car, on the
Yes.
exterior?
Yes.
You actually remember him pointing out some stains, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you remember him pointing out a stain outside the passenger door, isn't that right?
Yes.
You actually remember that independently.
Yes.
And as you sit here today, you have no independent recollection of Dennis Fung ever pointing out to you any small stains on the sill of the driver's door. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
In fact, you would. One moment.
You a good spot, or do you need a few more questions on this line?
No, we could stop at this moment.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief recess for the court reporter, 15 minutes. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, have any conversations with anybody about the case, conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. We'll see you back in 15 minutes. All right, Ms. Mazzola, you may step down.
She was filling out a report on another case.
Mhm.
I'm asking that the people be compelled to instruct her to produce that report with her either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, preferably this afternoon, because what she did the morning of the 14th is a very relevant material matter which will be coming up in this court's examination. The people are well aware of it.
Any difficulty locating the report?
I don't know, Your Honor, because I don't know whether they can track it down per case. But I told counsel that just generally speaking, I didn't see how that could possibly be discoverable, and therefore I would oppose it.
All right, we'll have a hearing 4:30.
What?
Excuse me?
4:30.
Okay, but I can even tell you in 10 seconds why it's discoverable, frankly.
4:30.
Okay.
Let's have the jurors. Ms. Mazzola, would you resume the witness stand, please? Let the record reflect, we've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Ms. Mazzola is again on the witness stand undergoing cross-examination by Mr. Neufeld. Good morning again, Ms. Mazzola.
Morning.
You're reminded you are still under oath, and Mr. Neufeld, you may continue.
When we left off, Ms. Mazzola, you said that you had no present recollection of ever being shown any smears or red stains in the sill area of the driver's side of the Bronco door. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you had been taught, Ms. Mazzola, that if you had seen smears or stains, that you should photograph them. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you had been taught one moment.
Certainly.
Show you what's been offered as 1097.
Equals 197.
Actually, I don't think that photograph has any markings on it, so it's not, doesn't appear to be court specific.
All right.
In fact, it may not be 1097, I'm not positive. It is.
I'll accept Mr. Harris's representation that it's 1097.
Ms. Mazzola, just so there's no misunderstanding, when I talk about the white sill area on the driver's door, I'm referring to, well, did you know when I answered those questions, that I was referring to that white strip of metal, which is under and next to the driver's door?
I had
In
an
that
idea
picture.
that's what
You
you
did have an idea. Okay. In fact, during your prep session with the district attorney,
Excuse me. Ms. Mazzola, please let him finish answering asking the question before you start to answer. The court reporter can only write down one person at a time. All right, thank you.
in fact, during your prep sessions with the prosecutors, did they tell you that the issue of whether or not there were blood stains located on the sill area was an issue in the case? Did that come up at all during your prep
It
session?
came up, yes.
Okay. And one moment. In fact, Ms. Mazzola, the only stains or smears that you saw anywhere on the exterior of the car on the 14th was a couple of tiny specks on the passenger door. Isn't that correct? On the exterior passenger door.
From independent recollection, yes.
Well, let me show this. Next in order would be,
Defense 1113.
thank you. Show you, and it's 1113. that picture familiar to you? You recognize it?
Yes.
And what is it a picture? I'm sorry. Is that a photograph of what is item 20 in this case that you referred to on direct examination?
Let me make sure that's the right.
Okay.
Yes. It is item 20.
That's on the passenger side, correct? The opposite side?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you said you had been taught that if you had seen other stains or smears on the exterior of the car, that you had been taught that they too would have been photographed, correct?
Yes.
And you had also been taught, ma'am, that if you saw stains that could possibly be blood, that you were also instructed to swatch them. Is that correct? And bring them back to the laboratory?
If they were phenol positive, yes, we would collect them.
Okay, so you were instructed then to do a pheno test as well on stains?
If there's any question, yes.
And obviously no pheno test was done on any portion of the driver's sill on the 14th, isn't that right?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, well, let me ask you this. If a pheno test was done, would it be recorded in your notes?
Yes.
Okay. Would you please look at your notes to see whether or not any pheno test was done on the sill of the driver's door to the Bronco?
No, one was not done.
Excuse me?
One was not done.
Okay. Now I show you what is already in evidence as People's 197A. See that?
Yes.
Whole world. Secretary reflected that she is being shown this matter, however, on the Elmo. Do you want to show her the printout?
Sure. Let me show you another copy. This is 197B. This is prosecution's exhibit. Take a look at this as well. And does 197B appear to be the same image as appears on the Elmo, only a little bit better resolution?
It appears so, yes.
Okay. Now, do you see the specks that are circled in that picture? There are 3 circles.
Yes.
And those specks that are circled, ma'am, they could simply be dirt, couldn't they?
It's possible.
Well, they're not red, are they?
From this photo, it's hard to tell.
Well, in that photograph, do they appear to be red to you, ma'am?
They actually look more brown.
Now, let me ask you a hypothetical, Ms. Mazzola. You actually have seen the car, right? You've been out there?
Yes.
You've seen the car when the door was opened on the driver's side, when the door was closed?
Yes.
Here's the hypothetical. If Detective Furman said that he saw 4 brush marks on the lower area of the driver's door. Now, what I want you to assume for this hypothetical, Ms. Mazzola, is that these 4 marks that are circled in that picture are the same 4 marks that Detective Furman claims he saw. Would Detective Furman have had to open the driver's door to see at least 2 of those 4 marks?
It's argumentative.
Sustain. It's argumentative.
All right.
Rephrase it.
Ma'am, you see the location of the various specks that are circled in that photograph?
Yes.
To see the 2 specks on the upper circle, you see where the 2 circles are?
Yes.
Would the door, the driver's door, have to be in the open position to see those 2 specks?
Lots of speculation.
Overruled. Overruled. You can answer that question.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it would have to be open or closed.
I'll take a look at this.
Next in order is
1114. All right, defense 1114.
Let me show you what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1114. And where's the duplicate?
All right, appears to be a photograph of the Bronco.
And I will show you
Driver's side.
a duplicate copy of the same photograph. Here you go. So you can see it close up. Have you had a chance to look at them both? And there's one more time, just
Okay, a little bit more time.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Mazzola, have you had enough time to look at that?
Yes, I have.
All right, do you need a magnifying glass or anything like that?
No,
All right, proceed.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the photograph of the Bronco?
yes,
And that is a photograph of the Bronco with the print shed, ma'am?
yes, it is.
And that's the way it appeared on June 14th?
Yes,
And ma'am, now that you've had a chance to look at that photograph of the Bronco, I now ask you once again. Actually, can you show the other photograph? And having looked at that photograph, and now also, once again, looking at 1097. You see that on the monitor?
yes,
Would you agree, ma'am, that if the, seen that not long enough?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you agree that in order to see the specs that are in the upper of the two circles, see the two circles
Yes.
on top of each other? That in order to see those two specs, the door would have to be in the open position.
Calls for an opinion, conclusion, no evaluation.
Sustain, rephrase the question, foundation.
One moment. When you went out to the scene on the 14th, you systematically examined the Bronco exterior, did you not?
They used to systematically.
Overrule as to scene, do you mean the print shed?
At the print shed. Right?
Yes.
In fact, that's what your vehicle search inspection list requires you to do, to make a systematic examination of the exterior of the car. Isn't that right?
Yes, it does.
And you did that.
Mr.
With
Bunn
Dennis
and myself.
Fong.
Correct.
All right. And you examined the door of the car, correct?
Yes.
And you examined it both in the closed position and the open position, correct?
Yes.
And based on now what you examined that day in the open position and closed position of the door, and having looked at these photographs, would you agree that in order to see the specs in the upper circle, that the door would have to be in the open position?
Still calls for a conclusion, no foundation.
Overrule.
It's hard to say. I'm not sure how far the bottom of the Bronco flares out. From the pictures, I can't say if it would have to be open or closed.
Ma'am, in the pictures that you have in front of you, doesn't the door of the Bronco come down flush with the outer edge of that sill? In the pictures that you have.
I'm not sure if it's flush or not. There's a bottom strip that could be out a little further. From the picture, it's a little hard to tell.
By the way, Mr. Zola, though, this one's not, okay. To the best of your recollection, ma'am, you didn't even see the specs in that upper circle on the 14th, did you?
To the best of my recollection, I did not.
And you did not see the spec in the lower circle, did you?
No.
And you did not see the smear or grayish discoloration indicated in the third circle, did you?
No.
You didn't see any of those on the 14th, did you?
To the best of my recollection, I did not.
Right. Ms. Mazzola, you didn't see them the morning of the 13th either, did you?
I wasn't.
Overruled.
On the 13th, I don't believe I was looking that carefully.
Ms. Mazzola, you were shown the car on the 13th by the detectives, didn't you? Weren't you?
Yes.
And you walked over with the detectives and Dennis Fung to examine the Bronco, didn't you?
Yes.
And in fact, I think you said that you personally even swatched the stain on the handle of the Bronco, didn't you?
Yes.
And that stain was pointed out to you by Detective Furman, wasn't it?
I'm not sure which one pointed it out.
Well, you were there when Detective Furman pointed it out to, well, I'm sorry, withdrawing. You were at the Bronco with Dennis Fung and other detectives when one of the detectives pointed out a small speck near the handle in the driver's door. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And at that point in time, when that speck was pointed out to you and Dennis Fung, no other speck was pointed out to you and Dennis Fung on the exterior of the car. Isn't that correct?
I don't remember. I just remember the one on the driver's handle.
Well, with respect to your independent recollection, Ms. Mazzola, as it stands today, is it fair to say that you have no independent recollection of any detective showing you any other speck or stain on that car other than the speck next to the driver's handle?
That I can recall,
That's what I'm
No.
asking you. Your independent recollection. would you
my
still
independent
recall?
recollection,
mistake.
no.
Thank you.
This man is exhausting. Exhausting.
And by the way, Ms. Mazzola, when you do a phenolphthalein test, have you been taught that there are confirmatory tests that you can do back at the laboratory?
That is why we collect the positive stains.
And the reason, I'm sorry, and the confirmatory test that can be done back in the laboratory would tell you whether or not it was in fact blood, as opposed to some other substance which created a false positive. Isn't that correct?
I am not in the serology section. I don't know.
Well, I'm not asking you for what test is done. I'm asking you whether or not you were told that there are tests that are done back at the serology laboratory to confirm whether or not an item which you suspected might be blood was in fact blood, as opposed to something else.
It's possible, yes.
And there are also confirmatory tests that you've been taught about which can tell you whether something is human blood as opposed to some animal blood. Isn't that right?
I have heard of those tests, yes.
And as you sit here today, ma'am, referring to those specs that you collected, which are item 20 on the passenger door,
Yes.
to your knowledge, has there ever been any confirmatory test done to determine whether or not that speck on the door was human blood?
States back on evidence.
It's the same. It's a vague question, which you're referring to item 20 in photograph number defendants 1113, correct?
Yes, I am.
Do you understand the question, Ms. Mazzola?
Item 20, the 3 specs on the passenger door. Is that what he's referring to?
Right.
What I'm asking you is with respect to the specs on the door, okay,
Okay.
item 20.
Right.
As you sit here
Excuse me,
today,
counsel. You keep on saying specs, and Mr. Harris put up another photograph. We're talking about 1113 passenger door specs 20, correct?
yes,
All right, proceed.
okay. With respect to those two specs that you see in the picture to the left of the number 20, to your knowledge, has there ever been a confirmatory test to determine whether or not those specs are human blood?
All 3%.
Or do you know if they were tested?
I do not know if they were tested.
When the detectives showed you the spec the morning of the 13th on the driver's door, not number 20, but the spec on the driver's door, that was right after Dennis Fung and the detectives had this discussion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was Dennis Fung with you when the detectives pointed out the spec on the driver's door?
Some specs on those detectives.
Overruled.
Yes.
Now, at both Rockingham and Bundy, did the detectives tell you which items to collect?
I forgot. You guys have to remind me because I don't remember.
They showed us different items, and between talking with Mr. Fong, they all decided which ones should be collected as evidence.
Dennis Fung and the detectives decided?
Correct.
1 second, Your Honor. During your training at the SID Mini Academy, did you receive handouts from time to time on how to conduct crime scene investigations?
We received various handouts, yes.
Okay. Ask this be marked next in order.
1115, defense 1115.
I'll show you what's been marked as defendant's 1115. I ask you to take a look at it, read it to yourself. Was that handout, I'm sorry, was that document one of the handouts that you were given at the LAPD?
I honestly can't remember if it was or not.
And seeing it doesn't refresh your recollection,
No.
that's what it was?
No.
In your presence, did Dennis Fung, outside the presence of the detectives, ever independently go out and look for evidence?
Not in my presence, I don't think.
When you arrived at Bundy that day, did the detectives make you wait until they removed both bodies?
I waited back on the sidewalk. Mr. Fung did not.
Well, did you wait back on the sidewalk because the detectives had asked you to wait?
No.
Well, had the detectives asked you to wait before you began your own work until the bodies had been both removed?
They did not ask me personally, no.
Well, did they ask Dennis Fung in your presence?
No.
Well, had you been taught, Ms. Mazzola, that when you first get to a crime scene, you are to make a quick search for perishable evidence? Is that something you've been taught at SID?
Yes.
And as you stood there when you arrived, you saw that the coroners were in the process of moving bodies. Did you not?
Yes.
Did you, when you first arrived, go forward then into the crime scene to conduct a quick search for perishable evidence?
I did not personally know.
And why is it that you didn't do that, Ms. Mazzola?
Because Mr. Fung was up in the area.
Well, did you actually, from where you were standing on the sidewalk, you could observe Mr. Fung, couldn't you?
For the most part, yes.
And when you saw Mr. Fung go into the area, he was carrying the brown paper bag which had the glove in it, didn't he?
I don't believe he had it the first time he went up.
Right, the first time he went up, did you see Dennis Fung making an examination for perishable or easily movable evidence?
I don't remember seeing him.
You don't remember seeing him do that, do you?
No, I don't remember seeing him.
Well, you don't remember seeing him at all?
I saw him up in the scene. I do not remember exactly what he was doing.
Well, where in the scene was he when you saw him?
I will point out.
When you were standing out on the sidewalk and they were moving the bodies, what did you see, or where did you see Dennis Fung standing?
Up in the area where they were removing the bodies.
Was he on the sidewalk or was he on the steps?
I can't remember.
And do you have any idea what he was doing when he was in there?
No.
Well, now that you've done that examination, okay, of that crime scene that day, you do know that he wasn't removing perishable or other small items near the bodies. Is that correct?
No foundation for personal knowledge.
Overruled. Do you
I-
understand the question?
I believe so.
Go ahead, answer.
I do not believe that he was removing any perishable items at that time.
Nor was he removing any small items that were in close proximity to the bodies, was he?
No, he did not appear to be, no.
Did you say to Dennis Fung, before he walked into the crime scene, that we should quickly look for perishable and other small items since they're moving the bodies?
No.
Did Dennis Fung say something to that effect in your presence to the detectives?
In my presence, I do not believe so, no.
And you would agree that trace evidence can be transferred carelessly when bodies are moved?
It is possible, yes.
Well, you were taught that, weren't you?
Yes.
In your presence, did you ever hear Dennis Fung, your supervisor, tell the detectives not to move the bodies until he first made an inspection of the scene for perishable or other small items?
Overruled.
In my presence, no.
Now, at 7 a.m., you said that's when you arrived, a little bit after 7 a.m., you arrived at Rockingham with Dennis Fung?
May check my notes.
Sure. You don't have an independent recollection as to what time you arrived?
Not independent recollection, no.
Okay.
It was approximately around 7 a.m., yes.
And you said that you overheard the discussion that Dennis Fung had with the detectives at that time. Is that right?
Bits and pieces, yes.
And the detectives showed you around the grounds before you began collecting any stains. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And at that point, the detectives told you which items to collect. Isn't that right?
They pointed out items that they were interested in.
Well, when they pointed out items that they were interested in, they were telling you that the items that they were interested in are the items that you and Dennis Fung should collect. Isn't that right?
Those and others if we found any, yes.
Well, did you find other items out there in the driveway of Mr. Simpson's house other than what was pointed out to you by the detectives?
In the driveway, no.
And so as to the items in the driveway, the detectives told you which items to collect.
Yes.
But you didn't even bother collecting any of the stains until 8:15, isn't that right?
Sustained.
Sorry, you didn't collect any of the stains until at least 8:15, is that right?
May I check the time?
Sure.
The stain on the Bronco was collected approximately 8:15.
And that was the first stain to be collected.
Yes, it was.
And the stains in the driveway were collected after that.
I just feel so much smarter now than I did before I started watching this stream, because I feel these questions are stupid, and anybody with any logic at all would understand that they're stupid.
Right?
Yes.
And Ms. Mazzola, did you, at any time after the discussion was over between Dennis Fung and the detectives, say to the detectives, wait, we should go to Bundy first and examine that scene before they move the bodies?
I did not know.
Did Dennis Fung say something to that effect in your presence to the detectives?
Not in my presence, no.
Now, what about, and that conversation would be around 7:30 in the morning, is that right?
Maybe a little before.
A little before 7:30, maybe 7:20.
Somewhere between the time we arrived and we started collecting.
Okay, so you didn't say anything to the detectives about the necessity of going to Bundy before they move the bodies at 7:20 or 7:30 in the morning, is that right?
Sustained. Phrase the question and move on.
Well, let's see, what about at 8 a.m.? At 8 a.m., you still hadn't collected the first stain. You knew at that point in time that there were bodies at Bundy that would have to be moved, did you not?
Argumentative compound.
Calls for speculation too.
Well, had you been told prior to 8 a.m. that there were bodies in connection with this homicide case at Bundy?
Overruled.
I knew that there were bodies at Bundy.
And you knew from your experience and training that the coroner's office would be there to move those bodies, did you not?
I did not know if the coroners would be there or not.
Well, you knew that at some point in time, the coroners would come to the scene to remove the two victims, did you not?
At some point, yes.
All right. Did you ask the detectives whether or not the bodies had been removed yet at 8 a.m. in the morning before you started collecting stains at Rockingham?
No,
Did Mr. Fung ask the detectives that in your presence?
not in my presence.
Now, after you collected the drop on the Bronco, it wasn't until 9 o'clock that you began picking up the other drops in the driveway. Is that right?
May I check the notes?
Please do.
Yes, approximately 9 a.m.
Okay. So at this point, you'd already been at the scene, ma'am, an hour and a half approximately. Is that right?
Not quite an hour and a half.
And you knew that there were two bodies of two victims at the Bundy location, correct?
Yes, there were two victims at Bundy.
And you knew that, just from your experience, that at some point in time, coroners would have to move those two bodies, correct?
Yes, they would have to remove them.
And you'd also been taught, had you not, Ms. Mazzola, in terms of crime scene evidence collection methods, that it is preferable to examine the crime scene before bodies are removed for small items or perishable items. Had you been taught that?
Small and very.
Haven't we gone through this already?
We have. I'm just trying to say
We
that
have. We have. Let's proceed.
Now, at both Rockingham and Bundy, photographs were taken of the various bloodstains. Is that right?
That's correct.
And for many of those photographs, were the photo cards set up by Dennis Fung?
Yes.
And in the photographs that were set up by Dennis Fung, one moment. He did not place a ruler in the scene, did he?
I don't remember if he did or not.
It seems to be working more often now. So It was just like no, I don't even think it was a whole month ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It just turned on one day. And now it just seems to be turning on more and more and more frequently. I know why. I know why. When my backlights aren't working while I'm driving, I have to smack the dashboard. And I think I just scared it. Like, oh, she's gonna smack me next if I don't get working.
Your Honor, with the,
Which board is this?
I'm sorry, what?
Which board is this?
It's People's 120.
Thank you.
Right. With court's permission, may we step down?
Yes. What happened to our pointer there? There we go.
Ma'am, in your training at SID, were you taught that when you take a photograph of a bloodstain or other item of evidence, that you should use a ruler in the photograph? That's something you were taught.
No.
Well, did you receive a handout which described how photographs should be taken at crime scenes?
It's Vegas to photographs.
A rule.
I believe we did, yes.
Hold on. Stop. She doesn't take the photographs. She tells the people what photographs to take, but she doesn't take the photographs, does she? I might have a name for my car, but I can't say it here. It's a long name.
Okay. Let's just be marked for the next one.
11/16.
All right, 11/6.
16.
Thank you. Show you what has been marked. Oh, sorry. Show you what has been marked
Your
as defendants
mistake.
11/16. Ask you to take a look at those two pages.
I'm not. I just watch Dexter. I watch a lot of Dexter. All right. I miss Dexter. I love that show. I know they have new episodes, but I don't have that. That looks like a pretty round circle, doesn't it? Which means he wasn't moving. He wasn't walking or running when he left that stain right there. Dexter for the win.
So Zola, it's 11/16. That's 11/16. The handout you received on forensic photography.
I don't know if it's the exact handout that we received.
Could be.
It's possible.
Well, calls for speculation.
Hold.
I'll say could be.
Could be, could not be.
But you say you recall receiving a handout on forensic photography, did you not?
Yeah.
Were you taught at the SID, Ms. Mazzola, that acceptable crime scene photography should tell a story by itself, absent of any written or oral narration? Were you taught that concept?
Something like that, yes.
And were you taught, Ms. Mazzola, at SID, that the photograph should have some scale in it so a person who's looking at the photograph will know how big the object is?
It's vague as to what type of photograph.
Whole rule.
Were you taught that?
I don't remember if we were or not.
Well, Ms. Mazzola, let me just for a second. Look at what is here in this picture, photograph B on prosecution's exhibit 120. You see it?
Yes,
And you see a red stain in the picture?
yes,
And would you agree, ma'am, that if there was no ruler in that picture, a viewer would have no idea how large that stain is? Would you agree?
yes,
And isn't it true that because of that fact, you were taught at SID that it is important to put some kind of scale or ruler in a photograph, so when someone looks at the photograph, they will have an idea as to how large the stain is?
That is a possibility. You can have a ruler in the scene.
I'm not asking whether it's a possibility, ma'am. I'm asking whether or not your instructors at the Los Angeles Police Department Scientific Investigation Division taught you that for forensic photography, that you should put, or instruct the photographer to put a ruler in the picture when you take a picture of a blood stain so that anyone else who's looking at it will know how big the stain is.
I don't believe they told us that. The forensic photographers know how to photograph evidence. It's up to them.
Ms. Mazzola, isn't the job of the
Thank
criminalist
you.
to instruct and direct the forensic photographer at the scene? Isn't that one of your responsibilities?
It is not her job to teach him how to do his job. That is not her job. No, sir, you're just wrong.
It is the supervising criminalist's.
Fine. So it's Dennis Fung's responsibility. Is that what you're saying? To instruct the forensic photographer how to take the pictures at the scene?
Excuse me, counsel, if you would. She was mid-answer when you started asking the next question. Allow her.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Would you please repeat?
So it would be fair to say that it was Dennis Fung's responsibility as the senior criminalist at the scene to instruct the forensic photographers on how to take the pictures of various items of evidence.
Not as to how, but which items you wanted.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Weren't you instructed, Ms. Mazzola, to make sure there is comprehensive coverage of each item of evidence at the crime scene?
Yes.
And weren't you instructed, ma'am, to make sure that the forensic photographer takes close-up shots as well as distant shots of each item of evidence?
Photographers are trained to.
Sorry. I asked whether you were instructed to make sure that that happens. You being a criminalist.
We were given information on the way the forensic photographers photograph crime scenes.
Then who brings the numbers that are put down to identify different items for the photographer to take pictures of?
We do.
That's your job, the criminalist, right?
Right.
You set the item numbers down.
Correct.
And if you want the photographer, by the way, were you working with one photographer at Rockingham in the morning of June 13th?
I believe we were. I cannot be.
It was the same photographer who at least shot the different stains in the driveway with you, isn't that right?
Yes.
And it was Dennis Fung's job to instruct that photographer what he wanted in the photograph, wasn't it?
Sustained.
Yes.
And you said, man,
Sustained.
Okay, Josh, I'll send you some small hands.
I didn't mean to ask the question.
I understand that. I'm just advising the witness
Okay.
if I sustain the objection. Thank you.
And you said, I believe,
Mr. Neufeld, is there a reason are you still questioning this?
now I'm going to question about the board.
All right.
Okay. And I believe you said on direct examination that Dennis Fung was not with you when you collected item 7 and item 8 at Rockingham. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
And he was with you when items 4, 5, and 6 were collected. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And item 4 is shown, sorry, in photograph A, correct?
Yes.
And item 5 and 6 is shown in photograph C, correct?
Correct.
Now, for items 5 and 6, is there a ruler in the photograph?
No.
Did Dennis Fung instruct the photographer to place a ruler in the photograph
Possible speculation.
in your presence? And I think you said, ma'am, oh, let me ask you this.
Yeah, there is no ruler in this picture, but there's a freaking car. There's a huge car and driveway, so we get it. We get how big it is. We get how big that little dot is because it's right beside a whole car.
Were you also taught that when taking pictures of bloodstains, it may be important to know whether or not the bloodstain has some direction, correct?
Yes.
And to know whether it has some direction, one would want to know whether the direction is north, south, east, or west, correct?
Correct.
And for that purpose, ma'am, weren't you trained at the SID that when taking photographs of bloodstains, that somebody should at least put into the photograph an arrow pointing north? Weren't you taught that?
Excuse me, counsel. She's the probationary trainee. Mr. Fung was in charge, and there was a photographer taking these pictures. So this is interesting, but not tremendously relevant to this witness.
Well, there's only one photograph here that has an arrow and a northerly direction on it. Isn't that right?
Judge, you are 15 hours too freaking late. Sorry, but still too late. We are all traumatized already, and the jury is too.
It appears to be yes.
And that's for item 7, correct?
Correct.
And item 7 Dennis Fung wasn't with you when you collected it, correct?
Correct.
In fact, the person who was with you when you collected item 7 was one of the more senior supervisors in the whole SID, correct?
Correct.
What's his name?
Mr. Steve Johnson.
And did Mr. Johnson direct that the N and the arrow be placed in the photograph?
I do not remember.
Or
He's
did you
not
direct
moving
that it be
along.
placed in the photograph?
He just ignored him completely.
You may sit down. Would you agree, ma'am, that in terms of the drops that were collected, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, that for those drops that do not have a ruler in the picture, there is no record of the size of those drops?
That is correct.
And would you agree, ma'am, that for the drops at Bundy, there is no ruler in any of those photographs?
I believe that is so.
You believe it's so that there is no ruler in any of those
That
photographs?
is correct.
And so would you also agree that there is no record for the size of any of the blood stains at Bundy, of the drops on the walkway?
That is correct.
And would you also agree that all blood drops are not the same size?
That is definitely correct.
And as you sit here today, 10 months later, do you have an independent recollection of the size of each blood stain at Rockingham and Bundy?
No.
And at any time while you were at Rockingham and Bundy, did Dennis Fung instruct you to note the size of each of the blood stains in writing on the field notes?
Overruled.
No, he did not.
Well, would you agree, ma'am, that the size of the blood stain is an indication of how much blood is present?
That is not necessarily so.
I said is one indication of how much blood is present.
It could be one indication, yes.
And would you agree, ma'am, that how much blood is present would indicate how much DNA one would expect to isolate from a blood stain?
I am not a serologist. I do not know.
Have you at any point in your instruction been told that the larger the blood stain, the more DNA one would expect to get from the blood stain? Has that been taught to you?
Sustained. She's already testified to that issue, counsel.
Ms. Mazzola, did you personally do the phenolphthalein test on the spec next to the driver's handle?
Yes.
And did you do that at the direction of Dennis Fung?
Yes.
And after you did the phenolphthalein test, and it came up magenta, pink, you collected that swatch, correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, to this day, Ms. Mazzola, has any confirmatory test ever been done to make sure that that speck was human blood? No, no.
Overruled. Overruled. Do you know if any confirmatory test was done on that?
I do not know.
Proceed.
Now, back at Rockingham in the morning of June 13th, isn't the fact that you personally and exclusively collected every drop of blood that was seen at Rockingham?
Mr. Fung assisted on a few of the drops.
When you say that Dennis Fung assisted on a few of the drops, what do you mean by that?
That he also took some swatches.
And on which items do you now say he also took some swatches?
Rephrase the question.
You say this morning that Dennis Fung assisted you on some of the stains.
Correct.
And you say that you mean by assisting you that he took some of the swatches.
Correct.
Do you mean that for some items you took some swatches and he took some swatches?
Correct.
So on each of the items, you personally took swatches, but
Correct.
at least as to some. He also took some swatches. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ma'am, when you testified on direct examination and cross-examination last Thursday, didn't you say that with respect to items 4, 5, and 6, that Dennis Fung alone was the collector of those items and not you? Wasn't that your testimony just this last Thursday?
I don't remember if it was or not.
You said one more. Your Honor.
Nice, Lori. He is an asshole. You are a mistake, sir. Gee, Josh, you're right. He's still alive. He would know how to hide it. Hey, can we pause for a second and just appreciate the fact, guys? Probably. Can we just appreciate the fact that today, in 1995, Dennis Fung just went into work and did his job. Dennis Fung didn't have to deal with any of this directly. I mean, he probably heard things about this or that or this or that while he was working because it was a major case. But he is at work right now, looking into a microscope, enjoying his day with none of people asking him stupid questions. Yes, that's awesome.
Zola,
And Sheck is still stuck in
you
his
testified on
room.
August 23rd, 1994. Didn't you testify that you alone collected all the drops of blood at the Rockingham location?
Counsel.
Page 698.
I'll check, because this has been asked and answered.
It's a different context, Joe.
Same except
I'm sorry, 698? What line, counsel?
Line 21.
Objection sustained.
Oh, Ms. Mazzola, when you testified on August 23rd, 1994, do you recall me asking you which items you collected at Rockingham? Do you recall me asking that question?
The objection was sustained, counsel.
This is a different quote I'm getting at, Your Honor. It's a
All
different portion of the transcript.
Proceed.
It's page 700, line 6 to line 18.
Line
Line 6 to line 18.
Proceed.
Would you please restate the question?
Ms. Mazzola, when you testified on August 23rd, 1995, were you asked by me which items you personally collected at the Rockingham scene that morning?
Excuse me, I don't remember the exact question. It might have been something like that.
Well, were you asked to distinguish those items that you collected personally as opposed to those items that you collectively collected with Dennis Fung?
Well, I'd ask for a page line site.
700, starting at 6.
Were you asked that?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure.
And isn't it a fact, ma'am, that when you were asked which items you collected at Rockingham, that you understood that question to mean those items that you personally collected as opposed to those items which you collected with Dennis Fung? Isn't that correct?
I'm going to sustain the objection. That's not the way this question is phrased, Counsel.
Well, let me ask you this. Were you asked these questions and did you give these answers in sworn testimony on August 23rd, 1995? Referring to page 700, line 6 to line 18. You have it?
Yes. I had to check the record, but this is what it is.
Overruled.
You can put it up. As if you want. What's next in order, Your Honor?
No, it's in the record already, Counsel.
Your Honor, I want to check for this procedure.
Overruled. You can read it.
What?
Read it, Counsel. Proceed.
Thank you. Were you asked these questions by me on August 23rd? Did you give these answers? Question. And after you removed that stain on the Bronco, you then began to collect the stains leading up the driveway toward the front door of Mr. Simpson's house?
Wait, take it down. It's not inconsistent. It doesn't say all the stains, it says stains. Take it down. Proceed.
Ms. Mazzola, when you were asked about the stains that were collected on Rockingham on August 23rd, did you ever testify that Dennis Fung collected even a single stain?
I don't remember if I did.
Did you testify that Dennis Fung even assisted in collecting a single stain?
Wait a minute. It's irrelevant what she was asked.
Sustain.
Was it your understanding when you were asked questions about the collecting of stains at Rockingham, Ms. Mazzola, that the questions were being asked of what you personally collected as opposed to what you collectively collected with criminalist Fung?
Overbroad.
Sustain. I'm going to sustain the court's own objection under 352 now. This is too confusing given the state of this particular transcript. It's not clear. The question was not clearly asked. Proceed.
One moment. Ms.
No.
Mazzola,
No, you had your time. You made me wait too long. Yeah, Ito's getting irritated, but he needs to do something about it. He's the only one who can. He is the only one who can. All right, let's just peek ahead real quick before we end. And how far Miss Mazzola, she's still there here. She's still there here. She's still there here. She's not there here. So somewhere between April 27th, we are on April 25th. So she either has 2 more days of this or the whole way up till May 2nd. I don't know who's on the stand here because it doesn't show. Wait. Maybe we can get some idea. No, we can't even get an idea about who's speaking because it doesn't show who's speaking. So we are way up here. We are on April 25th. We have until minimum here till we start moving on from Mazzola. But a lot of this will be Goldberg. So it's not all going to be super frustrating. But a lot of it will be super frustrating. Got to get through it to get to the defense, though. Can't wait for the defense. Let's go. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out. I'll see you again soon. Bye, guys. Have a great day.